There's a specific panic that happens the moment someone says they're 10 minutes away. You look at your space. Really look at it. And something close to shame crawls up through your chest. The sweeping begins. Dishes disappear. Clothes get stuffed into places that will haunt you later. And when your guest walks in and says your home looks great, you smile, you say thank you, and somewhere behind that smile you feel like a fraud. Now picture someone else entirely. You've probably met this person. Their home doesn't look clean because company is coming. It looks this way on a random Tuesday. Nothing pending. Nothing staged. Just the way things are. The counters are clear. The floor is clear. The sink is empty. And if you've spent enough time around someone like that, you've had a thought you couldn't quite shake. What is going on with them? Are they rigid? Are they anxious? Are they hiding something underneath all that order? The real answer is more interesting than any of those guesses. It was never about discipline. When most people try to explain this kind of person, they reach for willpower. Discipline. Motivation. Like this person simply has more of something the rest of us are running low on. That's not what's happening. Psychologists describe something called an internal locus of control, the degree to which a person genuinely believes their own behavior shapes the world around them. Not theoretically. Not as a value they've adopted. But as something that registers in how they move through a room, how they interact with objects, how they experience putting something back where it belongs. For people on the high end of that scale, maintaining their space isn't a battle against laziness. There's no friction to overcome. The act of putting a dish away carries the same low-level weight as tying your shoes. It's not heroic. It's just part of the texture of being them. Now compare that to someone who grew up in a chaotic household. And I want to be specific. Not just a messy home, but an unpredictable one. Loud. Inconsistent. No reliable rhythm. For a child in that environment, the brain does something intelligent and ultimately costly. It stops assigning meaning to the act of trying to manage the space. If nothing you do changes how the environment feels, eventually you stop registering that it's something you could change at all. Research in developmental psychology supports this. Chronic early life disorder correlates with weaker environmental self-regulation into adulthood. The association between home and control gets severed early, and it stays severed, quietly, until something makes it visible again. Sometimes that something is realizing you've had the same pile of clothes on a bedroom chair for 4 months and genuinely stopped seeing it. The third type nobody talks about honestly. Then there's a type the internet has decided to make charming, the person who cleans when something is wrong. Who reorganizes the kitchen at midnight after a hard conversation. Who starts scrubbing something spotless at the exact moment they're most afraid to sit with what they're actually feeling. This isn't discipline either. It's displacement. When emotional pain becomes too large or too formless to confront directly, the mind steers towards something small, physical, and completable. The relationship feels broken and enormous. The kitchen countertop is 14 square feet and can be handled in under 20 minutes. The brain understands the countertop. The brain desperately needs the feeling of resolution, and the actual source of pain isn't offering any. Research on psychological stress consistently shows that people who describe their home environment as chaotic or unfinished display measurably different cortisol patterns than those who describe their space as calm and ordered. The state of the home doesn't just reflect the state of the person, it feeds back into the body in real time. So the person cleaning from crisis gets the hit of completion. The bathroom is spotless. Something has been resolved, except the weight returns in about 40 minutes. Because the cortisol was never created by the mess. The mess was just where it settled. People who clean only from that place rarely feel clean afterward. The absence of clutter and the presence of peace are not the same thing, and some part of you already knew that. What your home looks like when no one is coming over. Here's the part that's easy to skip past. Your home, on an ordinary Wednesday, after a long day, when you're tired and slightly depleted and no one is going to see it. That version of your home is one of the most honest things about you. Not the version you present. Not the photos. The one that exists when there's no audience and no reason to perform. That space reflects your actual relationship with yourself. The baseline of care you've established, or the level of low-grade disorder you've habituated to so gradually that it stopped registering as unusual. Neither of those is a moral failure. But both of them are information. Environmental psychology research has documented this consistently. Visual disorder competes for attentional resources. When there's more to parse in a room, the brain spends more energy doing the parsing, and that energy comes from somewhere, from focus, from emotional regulation, from the capacity to feel genuinely at rest inside your own space. People who maintain order over time don't always know they're protecting their cognitive environment. They just know they feel more like themselves when the space is right. And after enough repetition, that preference becomes a habit. And that habit becomes part of their identity. And identity is where behavior actually originates. Why every organizing system eventually fails. This is what the decluttering industry will not tell you directly. You can implement any system. Color-coded bins. Drawer dividers. A labeler. A spreadsheet tracking what goes where. And within a month, probably less, it will drift back toward whatever state your home was in before, not because the system was wrong. Because you didn't actually change how you see yourself. If somewhere in your operating belief system you carry the identity of someone who lives in mild disorder, every system you install is working against that identity. And identity almost always wins. You're not failing the method. You're succeeding at being exactly who you believe you are. This is uncomfortable to hear because it means the problem is deeper than a label maker. But it's also the only version of this conversation that leads somewhere real. The question underneath all of this, the one that's probably been sitting quietly while you've been watching, is a simple one. Who do you believe you are, not who you want to be? Not who you're working toward. Who do you currently, at the level below conscious thought, actually believe yourself to be? Because your home will tell you, if you let it. While you're still watching this, something brought you here. You clicked on a video about the psychology of clean spaces, and that wasn't random. Maybe you're exhausted by your own environment in a way you haven't been able to name yet. Maybe you're the person with the clear counters who's always felt slightly out of step with the people around you. Unsure whether your need for order says something good or something rigid about who you are. Maybe you just traced a pattern, the corner that started accumulating clutter around the same time something happened in your life that you still haven't fully processed. The home tends to know before we do. It's worth sitting with that for more than a moment. Not to judge it. Just to see it clearly for once. Because that's usually where something real begins.